A waitress rushed out of the diner crying. Then the undercover owner notices something shocking. The aroma of fried bacon and maple syrup hung in the air at Sweetwater Diner, where the Wednesday lunch rush had transformed the quaint establishment into a battlefield of clattering dishes and shouted orders. At the center of this controlled chaos stood Lila Monroe, her auburn hair pulled back in a messy bun, dark circles beneath her green eyes betraying the double shifts she'd been working all week. Still, she managed a genuine smile as she delivered a stack of blueberry pancakes to the elderly couple at table 7. "Here you go, Mr. and Mrs. Abernathy. Extra syrup, just how you like it." Mrs. Abernathy reached out and patted Lila's hand. "You're an angel, dear. How's that night class going?" "Still hanging in there," Lila replied, her smile widening momentarily. "One semester closer to that accounting degree." The diner's bell chimed as the front door swung open, announcing the arrival of Richard Winters, a local real estate developer known for his expensive suits, generous tips, and impossibly particular orders. Conversations hushed slightly as he strode to his usual corner booth, pulling out his phone before he'd even fully settled in. "Your VIP just arrived," whispered Amber, another waitress, with bleach blonde hair and perpetually glossed lips. "Tony said you'd better not screw up his order again." Lila's brow furrowed. "Again? I've never messed up his order." Amber shrugged, walking away with an enigmatic smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Taking a deep breath, Lila approached Mr. Winters' table, notepad ready. "Good afternoon, Mr. Winters. The usual today?" He looked up from his phone, his expression stern. "No, I'm in the mood for something different. I'll have the chicken Caesar salad." What followed was a litany of specific modifications: dressing on the side, grilled chicken instead of fried, extra parmesan, no croutons, light on the pepper, with a side of sliced avocado, and lemon water with precisely 3 ice cubes. Lila wrote everything down meticulously, repeating the order back to confirm each detail. Mr. Winters nodded his approval, barely looking up from his phone. Lila hurried to the computer terminal, entering the complex order with careful attention, double-checking each modification before sending it to the kitchen. 15 minutes later, she collected the elaborately prepared salad from the pass. Nathan, the new line cook, who'd started a few weeks ago, gave her a sympathetic look. "Triple-checked it myself," he said quietly. "Everything's exactly as you entered it." "Thanks, Nathan." Lila balanced the plate carefully as she navigated the crowded floor, delivering it to Mr. Winters with a flourish. "Your Caesar salad, sir. Dressing on the side, grilled chicken, extra parmesan, no croutons, light pepper and avocado." The businessman's expression darkened as he inspected the plate. "What is this?" He jabbed a finger at the salad. "This chicken is clearly fried, not grilled. And look at all these croutons. Did you even listen to a word I said?" Lila's heart sank as she stared at the plate. He was right, there were croutons scattered throughout, and the chicken had definitely been fried. But she knew with absolute certainty that she'd entered the order correctly. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Winters. I don't understand what happened. I can take it back." "Is there a problem here?" The smooth, slightly nasal voice of Tony Moretti, the floor manager, interrupted as he materialized beside them. At 45, Tony wore his authority like his too tight dress shirts, with visible strain and apparent discomfort. "Your waitress got my order completely wrong," Winters complained, his voice carrying across several nearby tables. Again, Tony's expression hardened as he turned to Lila. "Let me see the ticket." Lila reached into her apron pocket with trembling fingers. Pulling out the order slip, Tony snatched it away, scanned it, then thrust it back in her face. "Are you kidding me? It clearly says fried chicken and regular preparation. What is wrong with you today?" Lila stared at the ticket in utter disbelief. The handwriting looked like hers, but the order was completely different from what she'd written. "That's not. I didn't." "Not interested in excuses," Tony cut her off, his voice rising. "This is the 3rd complaint about you this week. We're losing customers because of this kind of incompetence." The diner had fallen uncomfortably silent, dozens of eyes now fixed on the unfolding drama. From the corner of her eye, Lila caught sight of Tommy, the dishwasher, watching from the kitchen doorway with an unsettling smirk. Beside him stood Amber, failing to hide a satisfied grin behind her hand. "I've had enough," Tony continued, loud enough for everyone to hear. One more mistake like this, and you're fired. Do you understand me? Heat rushed to Lila's face as humiliation washed over her. This wasn't just about a wrong order. Something felt orchestrated, malicious. But with all eyes on her and no way to prove it, she stood frozen, her carefully constructed professional demeanor crumbling. "I'm terribly sorry about this, Mr. Winters," Tony said, his tone instantly transforming to obsequious charm. "Your meal is on the house today, and I'll personally ensure your new order is prepared correctly." Lila felt something break inside her. The unfairness of it all, the public shaming, the mysterious ticket switch, the smug expressions of her colleagues, collided with the exhaustion of 70-hour workweeks and late-night study sessions. Her vision blurred as tears welled up despite her desperate attempts to hold them back. "Excuse me," she whispered, her voice barely audible as she turned away. "Where do you think you're going?" Tony demanded. "Your shift isn't over." But Lila couldn't respond. She moved blindly through the restaurant, past curious customers and whispering staff. She pushed through the swinging kitchen doors, nearly colliding with Maya, the shy busser who quickly stepped aside, concern evident in her young face. "Lila?" Maya called after her, but Lila kept moving. She burst through the back door into the alley behind the diner, the heavy metal door slamming shut behind her with a resonant clang. The cool air hit her tear-streaked face as she collapsed against the brick wall, sliding down until she sat on the cold concrete. Only then did she allow herself to sob deep, body-shaking cries that released weeks of accumulated tension, frustration, and now humiliation. 6 years at Sweetwater Diner, working her way up from busser to senior waitress, putting herself through night school with her tips, never once having a customer complaint until 3 weeks ago when things mysteriously started going wrong. Inside the kitchen, Nathan Grant set down his spatula, his eyes fixed on the back door through which Lila had just fled. Unlike the rest of the staff who quickly resumed their duties with uncomfortable glances and whispered comments, Nathan's expression reflected not curiosity or amusement, but controlled anger and suspicion. What no one at Sweetwater Diner realized was that the new line cook with the quiet demeanor and watchful eyes was actually its owner. Working undercover to discover why his once thriving business was steadily losing customers, the manager's office was a cluttered shrine to mediocrity, fast food wrappers overflowing from the trash bin, haphazard stacks of invoices yellowing at the edges, and a thin film of dust on the rarely used employee handbook. Nathan eased into the creaking desk chair, the smell of Tony's cheap cologne lingering in the fabric. The computer hummed to life with a labored whine. Nathan bypassed the manager login entirely, instead entering his owner credentials that would grant him unrestricted access to all systems. The security software interface appeared, displaying feeds from the 6 cameras strategically positioned throughout the diner. "Let's see what you've been hiding," Nathan murmured, navigating to the archived footage. He began with today's lunch service, rewinding to precisely 12:47 p.m., the moment Lila had taken Mr. Winters' elaborate order. The angle from the dining room camera captured her writing the order meticulously, repeating details back to the customer for confirmation. Nathan watched as she walked to the POS terminal, entered the order with deliberate keystrokes, then printed the ticket. The kitchen camera showed Lila clipping the ticket to the wheel, calling out "Caesar Special. All mods on the ticket to the line." Nathan paused the footage, zooming in on the ticket. Though the resolution wasn't perfect, he could clearly make out "grilled" circled twice and "no croutons" underlined. He continued playback at half speed, studying every movement in the kitchen. That's when he saw it, a blink and miss it sleight of hand. Tommy, ostensibly collecting plates from the pass, reached up and swapped Lila's ticket with one from his apron pocket. "Got you," Nathan whispered, rewinding to watch the maneuver again. The replacement ticket looked identical at first glance. Same yellow paper, same handwriting style, but with crucial differences in the order specifications. Where Lila had written grilled, the new ticket read fried, and the no croutons instruction was nowhere to be seen. Nathan's jaw tightened as he watched the kitchen staff prepare the order according to the falsified ticket. The sabotage was elegant in its simplicity and devastating in its effectiveness. No evidence remained once the food was prepared, just Lila's apparent incompetence. Most damning was Tommy's expression as he completed the switch, a smirk of malicious satisfaction followed by a subtle nod toward Amber, who was positioned by the service window with a clear view of both the kitchen and the dining room. "It's a goddamn conspiracy," Nathan muttered, shaking his head in disbelief. He pulled up footage from earlier shifts, searching for patterns. The evidence accumulated with alarming clarity: 7 separate incidents over the past 3 weeks, all following the same playbook. Tommy would swap tickets on Lila's complicated orders, ensuring maximum embarrassment when customers inevitably complained. But why target Lila specifically? And why had Tony been so quick to berate her without investigating? Nathan checked the employee files, looking for connections. Nothing obvious linked Tony and Tommy, though they'd started working at Sweetwater within weeks of each other 2 years ago. Amber had joined 6 months later. All 3 lived in the same neighborhood according to their addresses. Possibly more than a coincidence. A knock at the office door nearly caused Nathan to jump out of his skin. "Hello?" came a hesitant voice. "Is someone still here?" Nathan quickly minimized the security footage and opened the door to find Maya standing there, her work backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes wide with uncertainty. "Maya? I thought everyone had left. I forgot my textbook," she explained, shifting uncomfortably. "I need it for tomorrow's class." Nathan nodded, noticing how the young woman's gaze darted to the computer screen behind him. "Found what you were looking for?" she asked, the question loaded with unspoken meaning. Nathan studied her for a long moment, making a split-second decision. "Actually, yes. But I could use some context." He stepped aside, inviting her in. "Tommy's been sabotaging Lila's orders. I've got it on video. What I don't understand is why." Maya's shoulders sagged with what looked like relief. She perched nervously on the edge of a chair. "I knew it," she whispered. "I've seen him hanging around the ticket wheel, but I was afraid to say anything." "Afraid of what?" "Tony," she said simply. "He and Tommy are cousins. They look out for each other." The missing piece clicked into place. "So that's why Tony never questions anything Tommy does." Maya nodded. "And why he's always so quick to blame Lila." "But why target Lila specifically?" Nathan pressed. "What did she do to deserve this?" Maya's gaze dropped to her hands, which fidgeted in her lap. "Tommy asked her out about a month ago. She turned him down nicely, from what I heard. Said she needed to focus on school and wasn't looking to date anyone from work. And he couldn't handle rejection," Nathan concluded, the pettiness of the motivation making the sabotage even more contemptible. "It's worse than that," Maya continued, her voice strengthening with apparent relief at finally sharing her knowledge. "After she rejected him, Tommy started spreading rumors that Lila had led him on, that she was teasing him for weeks before shutting him down. He told everyone she was sleeping with one of the regular customers for better tips." Nathan's stomach turned. "And Amber? What's her role in all this?" "She's always wanted Lila's sections. The best tippers sit there, and I think..." Maya hesitated, then plunged ahead. "I think she and Tony have something going on. They're always disappearing into the storage room together during slow periods." The entire toxic ecosystem was coming into focus: a nepotistic manager protecting his vindictive cousin, an opportunistic waitress leveraging a questionable relationship for preferential treatment, and a hard-working employee being systematically undermined for rejecting unwanted advances. "Thank you for telling me this, Maya," Nathan said, his voice gentle but tense with controlled anger. "Can I ask why you're willing to talk now when you've kept quiet all this time?" Maya looked up, unexpected steel in her young eyes. "Because Lila helped me when no one else would. When I first started and could barely handle the job, she stayed late every night to train me. She shares her textbooks with me, because I can't afford the new editions." Her voice cracked slightly. "She doesn't deserve what they're doing to her. I've been too scared to speak up, but I can't watch it anymore." Nathan nodded slowly, a plan forming in his mind. "I understand. And I promise you, this stops now." "What are you going to do?" Maya asked anxiously. "If Tony finds out I said anything..." "Tony won't be a problem," Nathan assured her with quiet confidence. "I'm going to need your help tomorrow though. Are you willing?" The young busser straightened her shoulders, nodding with newfound determination. "What do you need me to do?" Nathan smiled grimly. "Help me set a trap." Dawn broke over Sweetwater Diner with a tentative glow, painting the chrome fixtures in soft gold. Nathan had spent most of the night formulating his plan, stopping at an electronics store when it opened at 6 a.m. to purchase a miniature camera. By 7:30 he was back at the diner, carefully installing the device with a view of the ticket wheel, disguised within a decorative rooster figurine that had sat unnoticed on a shelf for years. "What are you doing?" The voice startled him, and he turned to find Lila standing in the doorway, her eyes red-rimmed but defiant. She'd arrived nearly 40 minutes before her shift. Nathan composed himself quickly. Just straightening up a bit, he gestured vaguely at the shelf. Lila didn't seem convinced, but she also didn't press the issue. "I wanted to get in early, make sure everything's ready." The unspoken words hung in the air, "to prove I'm not incompetent." "Listen, about yesterday," Nathan began. "I don't want to talk about it," she cut him off, her voice firm but not unkind. "I just need to do my job." Nathan nodded, respecting her boundaries while silently vowing to restore her reputation. As she turned to begin her opening duties, he noticed a textbook peeking from her bag, Advanced Accounting Principles. "You're studying accounting?" he asked, genuinely curious. A hint of pride broke through her professional mask. "Night classes at the community college. 2 semesters away from my degree." "That's impressive," Nathan said sincerely. "Working full-time and studying." "Not much choice," she replied with a small shrug. "Single mom, 5-year-old daughter. This job pays the bills until I can find something with regular hours." She seemed surprised at her own candor, quickly adding, "I should get to work." Nathan watched her go, the stakes of his plan suddenly feeling much higher. This wasn't just about catching workplace saboteurs. It was about a single mother fighting for a better future. Throughout the morning, Nathan casually observed the staff dynamics with new understanding. He caught the subtle ways Tony undermined Lila's authority with other servers, the lingering touches between Tony and Amber when they thought no one was looking, and the quiet solidarity between Lila and Maya as they navigated the toxic environment. During a lull before the lunch rush, Nathan approached Tommy at the dishwashing station. "Hey man, got a second?" he asked casually. Tommy barely looked up from the industrial washer. "What? Just wondering about the schedule next week." Tony mentioned something about cutting hours. The dishwasher's attention sharpened. "Whose hours?" "Not sure," Nathan shrugged. "Thought you might know, being close to the boss and all." "Tony knows better than to cut my hours," Tommy said with unexpected confidence. "It's probably that bitch Lila he's looking to squeeze." "About time too." "You really don't like her, huh?" Nathan probed, keeping his tone conversational. Tommy's face darkened. "She thinks she's better than everyone else with her college books and good customer service. She'll learn her place eventually." "What happened between you two anyway?" Nathan ventured. The dishwasher slammed a stack of plates down with unnecessary force. "None of your business, new guy. Just know that people who cross me regret it." The threat hung in the air as Tommy stomped off toward the walk-in cooler. Nathan had gotten what he needed, confirmation of Tommy's vindictiveness in his own words. But the encounter left him feeling unclean. By noon the diner was bustling. Nathan caught Maya's eye and gave a subtle nod. On cue she approached Tony at the host station. "Mr. Moretti, that food blogger you mentioned is here, the one doing the write-up for the local magazine?" Tony immediately straightened his tie. "What? Today? Why wasn't I informed?" Maya fidgeted convincingly. "He just walked in. Said he wanted an authentic experience without special treatment." "Which table?" Tony asked urgently. "Booth 15. Lila's section." Tony's face contorted with momentary panic. No, we need our best server on this." He looked around frantically. "Where's Amber?" "Break," Maya replied. "She won't be back for 15 minutes. Tony cursed under his breath. "Fine, tell Lila this is her last chance. If she screws up this review, she's finished." Maya nodded and hurried away, exchanging a quick glance with Nathan as she passed the kitchen. The food blogger was actually Nathan's college roommate, James, who had agreed to help with barely suppressed amusement when Nathan called him that morning. Dressed in a blazer with a notebook and an expensive camera, James certainly looked the part of a food critic. Lila approached his table with visible nervousness. "Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to Sweetwater Diner." "Thank you," James replied, perfectly playing his role. "I've heard interesting things about this place." "All good, I hope." Lila managed a genuine smile. "We'll see, won't we?" James studied the menu thoughtfully. "I think I'll have the Sweetwater burger, but I'd like several modifications." What followed was a deliberately complicated order with numerous substitutions and special requests. Nathan watched as Lila wrote everything down meticulously, repeating each detail back for confirmation. From his vantage point at the grill, Nathan observed the entire sequence. Lila carefully entering the order, printing the ticket, and clipping it to the wheel. Then came Tommy, casually approaching the pass as if retrieving clean dishes, his hand moving toward the ticket wheel with practiced stealth. This time, however, Nathan was ready. He pressed a button on his phone, activating the hidden camera. Simultaneously, he accidentally dropped a metal spatula, with a resounding clatter, drawing everyone's attention, including Tommy's, whose hand froze mid-reach. The dishwasher hesitated, clearly disconcerted by the sudden noise and attention. After a moment's indecision, he retreated without making the switch, throwing a suspicious glance toward Nathan. "Sorry about that," Nathan called out with feigned embarrassment. "Butterfingers today." Tony emerged from his office, irritation evident on his face. "Keep it down out there. We have an important reviewer in the house." But Nathan wasn't worried about the noise. The failed sabotage attempt meant the correct order would reach the reviewer, which wasn't part of the original plan, but would work regardless. Tommy had revealed his intent, even if he hadn't completed the act. More importantly, Nathan had caught something unexpected on the security feed, playing on his phone, something that changed everything. As Tommy retreated from the ticket wheel, the camera had captured a clear view of a text message on his phone screen. "Make sure she messes up big. I want her gone today." The conspiracy went deeper than a rejected dishwasher's vendetta. Tony wasn't just enabling the sabotage, he was directing it. The food blogger finished his elaborately modified burger with exaggerated satisfaction, making a show of taking notes and photographs. James was playing his part to perfection, drawing attention from the entire staff exactly as Nathan had planned. "How was everything, sir?" Lila asked, as she cleared his plate. "Exceptional," James replied with a warm smile. "I'd love to speak with the chef who prepared this masterpiece." Lila glanced toward the kitchen. "Of course, I'll let him know." In the kitchen, Nathan wiped his hands on his apron, steeling himself for the confrontation ahead. This was the moment everything would change. He checked his phone one last time, ensuring all the evidence was accessible with a few taps. "The reviewer wants to meet you," Lila informed him, a hint of genuine happiness in her voice for the first time that day. "Your burger impressed him." "Thanks," Nathan replied, then added casually, "Would you mind asking Tony and Tommy to join us? I think the reviewer wants to meet the whole team." Lila looked surprised but nodded, moving to find the others. Nathan stepped into the dining room, where James was waiting with knowing eyes. They'd rehearsed this moment over the phone, but the reality of it made Nathan's heart pound. Years of business negotiations hadn't prepared him for this kind of confrontation, one where people's livelihoods and dignity hung in the balance. Tony arrived first, his oily charm on full display. "I'm the manager, Tony Moretti. So pleased your dining experience was satisfactory." Tommy slouched in behind him, looking bored and vaguely annoyed at being pulled from his station. "Actually," James said, rising from his seat, "I'm not a food blogger." Tony's smile faltered. "Excuse me?" "He's an old friend of mine," Nathan interjected, stepping forward. "Here to help me with a little experiment." Confusion crossed Tony's face. "What the hell are you talking about?" By now several staff members had drifted closer, sensing the tension. Maya positioned herself near the kitchen door while Amber moved to stand beside Tony, her expression wary. "I think it's time we cleared the air," Nathan said calmly, pulling out his phone. "Tommy, would you like to explain why you've been switching Lila's order tickets? Or should I show everyone the security footage?" Tommy's face drained of color. "I don't know what you're talking about, man." Nathan swiped his phone screen, turning it to display a crystal clear image of Tommy in the act of swapping tickets. "This is from yesterday. I have 7 other incidents documented over the past 3 weeks." A murmur spread through the gathered staff. Lila stepped closer, her eyes widening as she stared at the evidence. "This is bullshit," Tommy sputtered, looking to Tony for support. "He doctored that footage or something." "Interesting choice of words," Nathan replied evenly. "Because I also have this." He swiped to the text message. "Make sure she messes up big. I want her gone today." Tony's face darkened with fury. "You've been going through my private communications? Who the hell do you think you are?" "That's a very good question," Nathan said, straightening to his full height and removing his glasses, the final piece of his disguise. "My name is Nathan Grant. I don't just flip burgers here, I own Sweetwater Diner." The collective gasp was audible. Amber's hand flew to her mouth. Maya, despite being in on the plan, looked genuinely shocked at the transformation in Nathan's demeanor. "That's impossible," Tony stammered, his composure crumbling. "The owner is some corporate guy in Chicago. We've never even met him." "Until now," Nathan corrected him. "I purchased this diner 4 months ago. When profits started declining and negative reviews poured in, I decided to see for myself what was happening. What I found was a pattern of harassment, sabotage, and toxic management that ends today." Lila stood frozen, her expression cycling through disbelief, understanding, and finally, cautious hope. "You can't prove anything," Tony blustered, but his voice lacked conviction. "I have 3 weeks of security footage, documented evidence of ticket tampering, witness testimony, and your own text messages directing the sabotage." Nathan replied calmly. "But more importantly, I have a dining room full of customers who just witnessed your dishwasher attempt to alter a ticket 10 minutes ago." Tony's eyes darted around the room, looking for an ally and finding none. Even Amber had stepped away from him, suddenly fascinated by the floor tiles. "This is how it's going to work," Nathan continued, his voice quiet but carrying authority that silenced the room. "Tommy, you're fired. Collect your things and leave now." The dishwasher opened his mouth to protest, then thought better of it when he saw Nathan's expression. With a final glare at Lila, he stormed toward the back exit. "As for you, Tony," Nathan turned to the manager, whose arrogance had deflated like a punctured balloon. "I'm placing you on immediate administrative leave pending a full investigation. I suspect we'll find more than just harassment when we audit the books." "You can't do this," Tony sputtered. "I've managed this place for 5 years. It would fall apart without me." "I think it's falling apart because of you," Nathan countered. "The overworked staff, the declining service, the toxic environment, all symptoms of failed leadership." He turned to address the entire staff, who were watching in stunned silence. "I owe all of you an apology. I should have stepped in sooner. From now on, things will be different at Sweetwater." The tension in the room shifted, uncertainty giving way to tentative relief. Several servers exchanged hopeful glances. Nathan looked directly at Lila, whose eyes brimmed with unshed tears. "Especially you, Lila. You've been targeted and undermined while trying to do your job with integrity. I'm sorry you had to endure that." "I don't understand," she said softly. "Why would they go to such lengths to get me fired?" "Because competent people threaten the incompetent," Nathan replied. "And because some men can't handle rejection with dignity." Lila's gaze shifted to Tony, realization dawning. "It wasn't just Tommy, was it? You wanted me gone too." Tony's silence was confirmation enough. "Pack your things, Tony," Nathan instructed firmly. "Security will escort you out." As if on cue, 2 uniformed security guards entered. Another part of Nathan's meticulous planning. They flanked Tony, whose final vestige of authority crumbled as he was led away, muttering threats that no one bothered to acknowledge. In the sudden quiet that followed, the diner seemed to take a collective breath. Nathan turned to the stunned staff, aware that the real work of rebuilding was just beginning. The following morning, Sweetwater Diner remained closed until noon. A first in its 15-year history. Chairs turned upside down on tables. Nathan addressed the assembled staff in the dining room's early light. "Yesterday revealed problems that run deeper than one incident or one bad manager," he began, perched on a stool at the counter. "This diner isn't just failing financially, it's failing its people." The staff sat in a semicircle before him. Some anxious, others hopeful, all uncertain about their futures. Lila occupied a chair near the center, her posture straight but her eyes still carrying the weariness of someone unaccustomed to good fortune. "I've spent the night reviewing employee files, customer feedback and financial records," Nathan continued. "What I found was a pattern of harassment that extends beyond Lila, scheduling that punishes those who speak up, and suspicious discrepancies in the books." Murmurs spread through the group. "Today, we start fresh," Nathan declared. "I'm implementing immediate changes, beginning with a zero-tolerance policy for harassment of any kind." He outlined a new anonymous reporting system, revised scheduling procedures to ensure fairness, and a commitment to promoting from within. Each announcement loosened the collective tension in the room, like air slowly being released from an overinflated balloon. "Which brings me to leadership," Nathan said, his gaze settling on Lila. Every business needs someone who embodies its values and understands its operations, from the ground up. Leela shifted uncomfortably under his scrutiny, clearly anticipating another burden rather than an opportunity. Lila Monroe, Nathan said formally, I'd like to offer you the position of General Manager of Sweetwater Diner, effective immediately. A stunned silence fell over the room. Lila's eyes widened in disbelief. Me? She finally managed. But I'm just a waitress. You're hardly just anything, Nathan countered with a smile. You know this diner inside and out. You've maintained exceptional service despite systematic sabotage. You have nearly completed an accounting degree that will be invaluable for operations, and most importantly, you've earned the respect of customers and coworkers alike, not through intimidation, but through integrity. Tears welled in Lila's eyes. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Maya piped up from the back, then blushed when everyone turned to look at her. A tentative smile spread across Lila's face. What would this mean exactly? Full-time salary at twice your current rate, Nathan replied. Benefits including health insurance for you and your daughter. Flexible hours to accommodate your classes, and my full support as you reshape this place into what it should be. Lila looked around at her colleagues, many of whom were nodding encouragingly. Yes, she said finally, her voice growing stronger. Yes, I accept. Applause erupted, led enthusiastically by Maya and joined even by Amber, who seemed genuinely relieved by the turn of events. As the meeting dispersed into smaller groups discussing the changes, Nathan approached Lila privately. There's something else you should know, he said quietly. I've spoken with the Dean of Business at your college. Sweetwater will be establishing a scholarship fund for employees pursuing higher education, with priority given to single parents. Consider yourself the first recipient. Your final 2 semesters are covered. Lila's composure finally broke. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she struggled to find words. Why are you doing all this? She asked. You barely know me. Because businesses aren't just balance sheets and profit margins. Nathan replied simply, they're people, and investing in the right people is always the best business decision. He extended his hand. Partners? Lila wiped her tears away and shook his hand firmly. Partners. The diner reopened at noon to a curious lunchtime crowd who'd heard rumors of dramatic changes. They found a transformed atmosphere, staff working with renewed energy, a simplified menu promising quality over quantity, and a new manager whose genuine smile welcomed them at the door. Over the following weeks, Sweetwater's transformation continued behind the scenes. A thorough audit revealed Tony had been skimming from the register for months. Criminal charges followed. Tommy's campaign of harassment had affected other female employees who came forward with their stories, strengthening the case against both men and bringing healing to those who had suffered in silence. Amber, after a frank conversation with Lila, received a second chance with clear expectations. Her initial resentment gradually gave way to grudging respect as she witnessed Lila's fair but firm management style. Maya blossomed under Lila's mentorship, eventually being promoted to shift supervisor while she began her own college journey. 1 month after the confrontation, Nathan visited the diner during the dinner rush. Instead of slipping in through the back as the undercover cook, he entered through the front door as a regular customer. The difference was immediately apparent. Warm lighting, upbeat staff, tables filled with satisfied diners. Lila spotted him from across the room and approached with a professional smile that warmed as she reached his table. Mr. Grant, welcome to Sweetwater. It's been a while. Just checking in on my investment, he replied with a grin. Looks like business is booming. Up 32% from last quarter, she confirmed. And staff turnover is down to almost 0. And how's the manager holding up? Nathan asked more gently. Lila's professional veneer softened. Busy but good. Sophia loves the daycare center. You helped set up for employees' children. I'm acing my final accounting classes. And, she hesitated, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. I actually have time to date occasionally. I'm glad to hear it, Nathan said with genuine warmth. You deserve every bit of happiness you've created here. As Lila moved to greet new customers, Nathan observed the diner with quiet satisfaction. Sweetwater had been transformed, not through fancy renovations or marketing gimmicks, but through something far more powerful, restoring dignity to those who deserved it, and holding accountable those who abused their power. The waitress who had once rushed out crying had returned stronger, not just surviving the experience, but using it to create something better for herself and everyone around her. In the business world's endless pursuit of profits and growth, Nathan reflected, it was easy to forget that true success often began with simply seeing people as they truly were, both the villains and the heroes hiding in plain sight. Nathan Grant wiped beads of sweat from his forehead as he mechanically flipped burgers on the sizzling grill, his mind replaying the scene he just witnessed. 3 weeks ago, he'd made the unconventional decision to work incognito as a line cook in the diner he actually owned. Sweetwater's once stellar reputation had been deteriorating, with profits down nearly 30% and an alarming rise in negative online reviews. The corporate reports his management team provided offered numbers but no explanations. "I need to see it for myself," he told his skeptical board of directors. With a trimmed beard, glasses he didn't need, and hair dyed a shade darker, the 38-year-old restaurateur became simply Nathan, the new hire with supposed experience from a diner in the next county over. Now, watching Tony strut back into the kitchen with a self-satisfied smirk, Nathan struggled to maintain his cover. The floor manager snapped his fingers at the grill station. "Rush that replacement, Caesar, and don't screw it up this time," Tony barked, though Nathan knew perfectly well the original order had been prepared exactly as it was received. "You got it," Nathan replied evenly, meeting Tony's eyes just long enough to communicate competence but not defiance. His real thoughts remained carefully hidden behind a practiced poker face, a skill honed through years of high-stakes business negotiations. What troubled Nathan most wasn't just Tony's appalling management style, but the diner's culture that apparently tolerated it. Not a single staff member had gone to check on Lila. Instead, most averted their eyes or busied themselves with suddenly urgent tasks, a collective exercise in studied indifference. "Someone needs to cover Lila's section," Tony announced, scanning the kitchen with obvious irritation. "Maya, stop daydreaming and take over her tables. Now." The young busser, barely 18 with a perpetually startled expression, nodded rapidly and scurried to pick up the slack, clutching her tray like a shield. As Nathan prepared the correctly specified salad, he mentally reviewed what he knew about Lila Monroe. In his 3 weeks of observation, she'd proven herself exceptionally competent. She arrived 10 minutes early for every shift, stayed late without complaint when they were short-staffed, knew the menu backward and forward, and most importantly, had built genuine connections with the regulars who specifically requested her section. Until recently, her performance had been flawless. But over the past 2 weeks, Nathan had noticed a troubling pattern. Orders mysteriously incorrect, tables left waiting, items rung up with wrong prices, all supposedly Lila's mistakes, though none matched the waitress's usual precision. "Order up," Nathan called, sliding the replacement Caesar across the pass. As Tony snatched it away, Nathan's attention was drawn to Tommy, the lanky dishwasher, whose perpetual scowl had momentarily transformed into something more disturbing. A satisfied smile as he watched Lila's section being reassigned. More curious still was the subtle nod Tommy exchanged with Amber, who'd positioned herself near the coffee station with a clear view through the service window. When she caught Nathan watching, she quickly busied herself with filling sugar dispensers, her heavily mascaraed eyes darting away. As the lunch rush gradually subsided, Nathan found an opportunity to approach Maya, who was emptying a bus tub near his station. "Pretty rough what happened to Lila today," he commented, keeping his tone casual as he wiped down his workspace. Maya's shoulders tensed visibly. She glanced nervously over her shoulder before responding in a near whisper. "Yeah, she didn't deserve that. 3rd time this week something's gone wrong with her orders," Nathan observed, careful to keep his voice neutral. "Seems like a strange coincidence." Maya's hands faltered slightly as she stacked plates. "I wouldn't know anything about that." "You think someone might be setting her up?" Nathan ventured, taking a calculated risk. The girl's eyes widened with a flash of, what was it? Fear? Recognition? She said nothing, focusing with unusual intensity on arranging silverware. "I think I might stay late tonight," Nathan continued, lowering his voice. "Check a few things in the kitchen." Maya gave him a curious, almost hopeful look before hurrying away. In that brief glance, Nathan read volumes. Confirmation, relief, and perhaps a touch of guilt. The rest of the shift crawled by with excruciating slowness. Nathan maintained his role while cataloging every interaction, every whispered conversation, every suspicious glance. He noticed how Tommy and Amber frequently found reasons to confer in corners, their conversation stopping abruptly whenever anyone approached. He observed Tony's selective enforcement of rules, stringent with Lila and Maya, remarkably lenient with Tommy and Amber. Most telling was Lila's return, an hour later. She'd washed her face and composed herself, though her eyes remained red-rimmed. She approached Tony with quiet dignity. "I'd like to finish my shift," she said simply. "Oh, decided to act professional now?" Tony sneered. "Fine. You can take tables 9 through 12, but one more screw-up and you're done." Nathan watched as Lila straightened her shoulders and returned to work, handling the remaining hours with mechanical efficiency, her usual warm smile replaced by a carefully neutral expression. When the dinner prep began, Nathan positioned himself near the order terminal, ostensibly organizing supplies but actually observing the flow of tickets. He noticed that Tommy found excuses to hover near the service station whenever Lila entered an order. Twice, Nathan deliberately interrupted, appearing suddenly with questions about recipes or ingredient locations. Both times Tommy retreated with barely concealed frustration. By closing time, Nathan had formed a theory, one that would require evidence beyond mere suspicion. As staff members clocked out, he made a show of struggling with a stubborn grease trap. "Don't worry about it, new guy," Tony said dismissively. "Lock up when you're done. I'm out." "Sure thing," Nathan replied, pocketing the keys Tony tossed his way. Alone in the empty diner, Nathan Grant shed the deferential demeanor of a line cook and stood straighter, his movements becoming more decisive, more purposeful. He walked directly to the small office in the back, using his owner's keys to access what his employees didn't realize he already had every right to see.